Happy Friday guys. So today's video is going to be slightly different. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to recycle one of the videos that I've used in the private Facebook group to give you an idea of what actually goes on in there, what information you can expect to find, and whether you want to obviously get involved in it. Because one of the main things that I want to try and do is, one, obviously give you as much information as I can, but two, kind of change your thought processes to certain things, certain topics. This one in particular is going to be setting up your own diet phase, and it's important to give you the theoretical knowledge, but also to obviously give you the thought process that goes behind it, because then when certain things change, that you can actually react to those and make those changes yourself. So gonna attach the video in here. This one went up roughly about a month ago, so it's one of the first ones. Question that I got, and it's one that kind of gets asked fairly recently as well, so I'm sure a lot of you will be thinking the same thing. So give it a watch, let me know how you find it, give the video a thumbs up. This one's gonna be slightly shorter. I'm in the process of recording a ton of content for the speed program that I'm doing. If you don't know what that is, I put up a poll on Instagram and asked about if people wanted a speed program. So it's gonna be probably a 6-week one, where the idea is obviously improving your technique, getting you the basic foundations of kind of your sprint technique and bringing you on that. So I will leave a link in the description below for the private Facebook group, and also a link to Instagram, where I'm going to start putting up little snippets of it, and I'm going to be having like a registration for that speed program, which will be on sale around Easter. So again, I'm looking at March 24th to March 31st. Is it 30 days in March? 30 days, maybe. Yeah, 31st of March. So really excited about that, but I'm gonna get cracking on that tomorrow. So hope you enjoy the video. So gonna get a little bit more practical with today's video. Today's video is going to consist of 2 different questions that I've gotten. One of them was today, one of them was yesterday, and it's going to provide you with a little bit more practical knowledge rather than the kind of theoretical knowledge that I've given you in the last couple of days. While that theoretical knowledge is vitally important so that you can understand how certain things work and how to kind of make your own decisions when it relates to changes in your training, your nutrition and things like that. Obviously, ultimately, it's the kind of practical knowledge that you guys will need so that you can start to put into practice some of the kind of sound bites that I'm giving you. So the first question was, just wondering, could you help me out starting back into my placement from now until summer, and I'm trying to start a diet that will get me through the day, but that's going to help me with the gym as well. Doing a push-pull leg split program with the intention of cutting as much body fat as possible but getting lean and strong at the same time. Any advice or meal plans you have would be very helpful. So reading the question first, obviously you've got to take into consideration, 1, what the goal is of the program, 2, the time scale that you're working with, 3, the lifestyle or the constraints of the individual. So when you think about the difference between someone who kind of works in an office job 9 to 5, they would have a relatively low NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis. When you compare that to someone who is in labor, or is we'll say someone like an electrician or a plasterer, or someone who's on their feet all day doing physical work, their kind of activity levels would be that little bit higher. So they're kind of considerations that you have to think about when you're kind of giving these recommendations. So this guy is a teacher, so a little bit of combination between sitting and standing. NEAT wouldn't be terribly high, but it would be higher than your average person who sits at an office desk, because you have that obviously getting up and down, being at a board, fidgeting, using a pen, little stupid things like that, but they do contribute in the grand scheme of things to energy expenditure. So my initial recommendations were, because of the time frame as well, we've got a long time. So summer, we'll say for a teacher will typically, depending on obviously what level you're teaching at, whether you're primary or secondary, you're looking at, we'll say June time as your cutoff point. So that's what, February, March, April, May, June, 5 months or 20 weeks if we look at it like that way. So it's a long time to be in a phase of dieting. So it's a little bit easier than we'll say getting kind of stuck into a 6-week kind of harsh dieting period. So again, going back to the stuff I've already talked about, initially you want to set yourself at maybe a 100 to 200 calorie deficit, and I've gone very, very conservative with that one because, again, longer time frame. If you give yourself an aggressive calorie deficit, so if we're talking maybe 500, 600 calories, what you're doing is you're placing a heavy restriction on yourself, and it makes it a little bit harder to adhere to that long term. Whereas if you go conservative with 100, 200 calories in a deficit, you will lose fat at a steadier or a slower rate than someone who goes a little bit more aggressive, but you allow yourself a little bit more freedom in the foods that you can use, and obviously the amount of calories that you can use as well. On the flip side of that as well, if you go very conservative with your calorie deficit, what you can do is you can progressively make that increase bigger. So you go 100, 200 calories for 2 to 3 weeks, and you make a slight drop, but it starts to kind of plateau and you're not losing any fat anymore. What you can do is you can add on another 50, 100 calories, again stay on that for another 2 weeks, and what you'll see is, yes, there might be fluctuations up and down, but over that, we'll say 8 to 10 week period, what you'll see is a kind of a trend towards losing fat, which is what we want to see. And those steady increases in the calorie deficit make it easier to, again, adhere to it and not get stuck into a cycle of binging, which again is not really what we want to happen. We want the kind of dieting period to fit seamlessly into our lifestyle and make it easy for us to adhere to it. Whereas if you go really aggressive with the deficit, 500 calories straight away, and you hit a plateau, all you can do then is go further into a deficit or add in cardio, and those changes happen really, really quickly, and you feel almost stuck in this kind of cycle of, okay, heavy deficit, more cardio, more of a deficit, more cardio, and it's just a cycle, and it's very kind of aggressive and it's difficult to stick to. Whereas again, like I said, if you go with a conservative deficit and kind of progressively increase that, it makes it easier to make these sort of smaller changes over time. So you can add in, if after, we'll say 12 of those 20 weeks you get to a point where you've decreased your calories maybe 3 or 4 times, again 200 calories or 150 calories every time, and you get to a point where it's not really feasible to drop your calories any lower, then what you can do then is you can add in some sort of cardio, whether that's an hour walk outside. If you don't have the time, then maybe you're going to the gym and you're spending 20 minutes on a treadmill, or you're aiming for a specific number of calories burnt, whether that's 150 to 200. So rather than putting yourself in a calorie deficit of, we'd say, 200 extra calories, keep those calories in your diet and just add in maybe 150 to 200 calories of cardio. So that was the way I went about it. Again, a little bit more practical advice for some of you who are thinking of making a body composition change towards summer. Ideally, you'd want to start within now and the end of February, because of what it does then, it gives you roughly a 4-month period to do that, and you can give yourself, let's say, diet breaks in between if you need it, or there's less stress on you when kind of life events pop up, because inevitably they do. A wedding, a birthday party, whichever college events, whatever it is, it makes it easier for you to kind of deal with that. So that's the first one. If you found it useful, again, drop the video a like.